Hey there, it's Renessa Boley Layne, and I want to welcome you to another conversation on creating your perfect work. We are in the middle of our Love and Work Summit. So if you have missed any part of this awesome series, make sure that you go back and catch up. I always say, whether you are married, single, coupled up, dating, craving love, or running the hell away from it, there is something in these conversations for you. And so in today's conversation, we're going to talk about becoming your own soulmate. And whether, again, you're single and you're looking to attract your soulmate, or if you're in a committed marriage or relationship and you want to transform that in what today's guest calls next level love, then this conversation is definitely for you. And if you've had challenges in relationships, or if you've experienced the realities of kind of marriage and commitment, and that's kind of jaded your happily ever after, then the goal is not to look out there for change, like not looking to the next, swiping left and finding the next thing. But step one is to really become your own daggone soulmate. And we're going to talk about how to do that today. And so today's conversation is also an invitation. I like to say it's an invitation to like yourself. And I don't mean just love yourself, because we all have people that we love, but we don't like them very much. So we're going to talk about how do you like yourself a lot. Because when you like yourself, the world around you, be it in love or in work, they can't help but be drawn to you. And so, this remarkable woman who is sharing the screen with me today is none other than Junie Moon. And Junie is CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud. She is a women's empowerment leader, a certified shadow work coach. Junie's been seen on News 12 in New Jersey, on Blog Talk Radio, on Authority Magazine, Thrive Global. So she's been around. And she is in the Newark International with her film, Shed the Shame. Shed the Shame. She produced it, she starred in it, and you're going to understand why. She is so qualified for that documentary. She's also the international best-selling author of a book called Loving the Whole Package, Shed the Shame and Live Life Out Loud. She's an international award-winning speaker, and she is the host of the successful Midlife Love Out Loud podcast. So if you are a midlife woman, 40-ish, 50-ish. I'm 47, so I'm square in that, but I do say I have some issue with the whole idea of midlife. Like I'm not a day over 28. But if you are in midlife, then this is definitely a woman that you want to connect to. No matter where you are in the spectrum, though, when you have the opportunity to glean wisdom from women who have gone before you, you take that opportunity because there's something to be learned. And so, no matter where you are in the spectrum of love and work, this is going to be a conversation that will bless you. And so, with that, I want to welcome Junie to the show. Thank you for being a part of this amazing event.
Wow. Wow, what an introduction. And I just absolutely love what you're bringing to the world and helping people with. So it is so my honor to be here. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So, I'm going to say this at the onset. What I love about Junie is that she's just real and she's present. And you're going to see this in our conversation today, but she honors the unique journey that every woman must take to be free in love, to be free in life, to be free in work. And I think you're going to learn a lot from her, and you're going to learn a lot from her story. And so that's kind of where I want to start, Junie. I want to let the audience get to know you because you have a fascinating story. And I think it's one that people can pull pieces of in their own life. Can you share a bit about how you got here, and how why you're doing what you're doing?
Absolutely. Well, being a human being, definitely, let's all take a breath into that, right? Lots of nuances to our life. And I kind of, at this point in my life, I look at the tapestry of my life and all the different threads and the different colors. And each of those threads have created where I am right now, where I can love myself and like myself and have a spectacular life, experiencing what I call next level love, the ability to be myself and to be honored and cherished just as I am.
Yeah.
However, that wasn't how it was for most of my life because I walked on eggshells I was bullied. I was terribly bullied as a kid. And I got
Mhm,
some messages that told me I was weird, I didn't fit in.
mhm.
If I was my bubbly self, that, there's a saying, tall poppies get cut off, And
Right.
so by the time I got to high school, I couldn't even raise my hands in class. And so I got a message that I better be careful. Otherwise, I'd be kicked out of the tribe, ridiculed, shamed, you name it. And I took all these beliefs into my adulthood as well.
Mhm.
Fear of being seen, fear of speaking up. And then I took it into all my relationships, including my marriage. And so in my marriage, I walked on eggshells. I was unable to really voice my truth. And I was
Mhm.
just so uncomfortable. And so I ate a lot of food. I hit 200 pounds. I'm 5'3". I was miserable. I was in pain. And I
Right.
really didn't understand. I thought I had a food problem. I
Well,
really, and I did. What I didn't realize was it was a self-esteem problem. It was a
yeah.
programming problem. And then I woke up and I found the work that I do now called shadow work, and
Mhm.
everything shifted. And I did the healing work, the inner work, becoming my own soulmate work. And because I was able to create the life that I have, it was a no-brainer. I
Well,
truly, truly, truly wanted to make a difference in other people's lives, because we can heal. We can shed the shame. I had so much shame, and shame grows in the dark. And so
yeah,
let's
it does.
shine a light on it so we can heal and be our vibrant, most amazing selves.
Awesome. So I appreciate you sharing your story because, oftentimes people don't realize you look at folks on the outside and you have no idea what they have gone through to get where they are. And so when you talk about being bullied and all of that, I was like, yeah, I was bullied, as a kid as well. And it's funny because I started to share some of those stories as I became an adult, as I started doing this work, as I started speaking. And I'd have classmates who would, whether it's on Facebook or, something, they'd be like, I had no idea. Remember, I was on a TV segment doing a TV show, and it was all about high school reunions, like how do you prepare for a high school reunion or something like that they had me talking about. And I was sharing, I had been bullied in, junior high school, and I had classmates were like, we would never know. And really, I was class president, I was a cheerleader, I was a lot of things on the outside. And yet those very things that you think are your strengths or whatever, someone else will take that and and dim the light, right? And so from that, it affected how I built relationships with females in particular well into my 30s. I
Yeah.
was real awkward when it came to intimate relationships and real friendships with women, and I had to really grow through that. But I share that because when folks are listening in, people don't know the shadows. They don't know, and we'll talk about shadows a little bit later. People don't know that. They don't know the messaging that you hold. And sometimes you don't even know either, and how it impacts how you show up. But I think that's a perfect segue because you often talk about this concept of peeling the love onion. And you're often, coaching and training women on how to kind of reflect and look back over the journey of their life in different phases to really begin to understand the wisdom that comes from those experiences. Tell us more about that and why that is so important.
Yeah, thank you. There are layers. There are layers, and I remember when I first started studying this work that I do called shadow work, and I know we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. My trainer, the founder of this body of work, Cliff Berry, he said, we don't hit you over the head with a 2x4, we peel back the onion. And I hone in on love, because to me, there's nothing more important on this
Yep.
planet, which is love. It's our birthright. And with that said, when we've had these really painful experiences, to go right to the core of that onion, well, you can. And with that said, that could be really intense, and we
Mhm.
have to be ready. And so consciously, gently, we go, let's look at this piece and unpack it. When you think about when you think about I really suck at examples, but but I'm thinking of like a really messy closet that you've like shoved a lot of stuff into the closet.
Yeah.
It can be a little messy for a while when you start to clean it up. you might need to do a little bit at a time, where maybe your house is really messy and you need to just, chunk it at a time. And so that's kind of how I view this journey, which is, looking at these chapters of our life and the components of our life, and honoring, if we can, the gold, to mine the gold of
Yeah.
what it is that we learned, and how is it informing us now. What are the gifts? The challenge is we may not see the gifts, and we may not be able to connect to what's there, because of all the pain, because of
Yeah.
all the beliefs that are surrounding it. So by peeling back the onion, the love onion, we slowly bring up to the conscious mind, because we're like, 5% of our brain is conscious. 95% in the background here is running all the old programming of what we should or shouldn't do, how we should or shouldn't be. So when we lower the volume of all that chatter, then we could actually have those memories without those deep emotions.
Yeah.
And that's where the wisdom is. And that's when we can go, okay, that sucked.
Yeah.
And it's in the past. And now I can own and align and bring forth what I've learned, and have a very different trajectory for the rest of our life.
Yeah. It's interesting because I once heard you say that memories without emotion is true wisdom.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that is true, right? Oftentimes as women, we don't want to look at our past. We don't want to look at what what we perceive we've done wrong, the shameful parts of our lives, or even some of the great parts, especially if what was, glory day was better than what might be present day. And so there's all this nostalgia associated with something in the past, and then it makes the present look so much less desirable. And or there's all this emotion tied to whether it's heartbreak or betrayals or failures or embarrassments and all those kinds of things. And when you don't do that, you are unable to see the lesson, and unable to see the gift, and unable to see the value in what the experience was. And so I'm bringing this to light as an invitation for folks to be able to say, okay, what do I need to take a look at? Yeah, you might look amazing on paper. The resume might look great, the letters behind your name and all of that. But in order to really have a great love, in order to get to the heights of your career, not just the achievement, but really all the security and joy and sense of just self that comes with that, you've got to be willing to take a look at the darker places, the shadow places. I remember, it reminds me, when I was younger in my career, earlier on, it was one of my first jobs. And my background, for those who don't know, I'm an engineer by training. So I went into a technical space, but I did not like math and I hated science. I only went in that direction because all of my mentors were like, you're young, you're Black, you're good at math, you're good at science. This is the future, right? And this was before STEM was even a thing. And so I was like, well, I don't really like this, but I want to get paid.
Yeah.
And I start this, I go in this direction, miserable, like all kinds of digestive disorders and chronic fatigue and miserable. However, I was on a case. I was a management consultant at the time. I was on this case, and it was arguably one of the easiest pieces of work that I'd ever done. But my performance was so bad. So much so that when we had the performance review and the debrief after the event, literally the manager was like, you might want to consider another line of work. For an big ego chick like me, I was valedictorian in high school. I was a straight A student. I was an achiever. And then to go out and for someone to tell you, you stink, and to also have the reinforcement of knowing that I didn't show up well, it was such a bruise to the ego. But the reality is, A, he was not wrong. Like, he was a terrible manager, so he might want to consider a different line of work, but didn't mean that what he was saying was untrue. And at the same time, as I look back on that now, doing the work that I do with helping women figure out where they belong in the marketplace, I was like, amen, God sent. It was exactly what I needed to hear. But I can look back and I can talk about that without the emotion of failure, because it really was a gift. I didn't
Mm.
belong there. And it helped me to pivot to a direction that was more aligned to where, I needed to be moving forward. But we've got to be willing to have those conversations with ourselves and to start peeling back some of those layers and have the courage to be able to look objectively at our lives and then take the wisdom from that, own it, and then literally move forward and accomplish whatever it is that we want to accomplish. But I read your book, Loving the Whole Package, and I recommend for folks who are listening in, get the book. It's actually a really, really interesting read. And there's a great story in there that I presume was the basis for the book. So tell that story because I think it's an awesome story, but tell the story because I think it has so much resonance with everybody that's listening.
I'm totally going to tell the story, and I have to add something to what you shared because
Yeah.
oh my God, you just put out some really good stuff here. So reflecting, looking, and the fact that some people don't want to, and whether it's good or bad, sometimes it's like it's in the past. And here's the thing. Yes, we need to reflect, and yes, we need to, pull out the gold and come to this place of the past is the past, and let me, let me get the wisdom from it. And here's the thing: if we don't look at the past and we don't unpack the past and we shove it down like I did, it
Yeah.
comes out sideways.
Oh yeah.
Shadow, anything that
Oh
we
yeah.
disown, anything we go, I better not look at, I better not be, I better not
Yeah.
show up as good or bad. So if we're pushing away our memories, if we're pushing away our experiences, usually there's a part of us that's around terrified
Yep.
to go there. So sometimes we block ourselves from looking at these things because it's uncomfortable. Like I didn't know how to. I was so blind. I had these blind spots. And it took someone else outside to kind of take my hand and allow me in a safe place to kind of go, oh, I couldn't see it
Yeah.
because it was shadow. And when it comes out sideways, like my food, I mean, I would rage at my husband because I pushed down my voice,
Yeah.
pushed down my needs. And then that final thing would happen, and maybe I was tired and I would be banging on his chest, screaming. Suffice it to say, that doesn't happen anymore because I've done the unpacking. So I really wanted to add that piece. It's about looking and healing so that we are not at the mercy of some of the things that we go, I better not, I better, better be like
Yeah.
this. So I really,
Yeah.
and the fact that you had the pain and the digestive things, like there's all these pieces, and I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I just wanted to like
Yeah.
shine a light on that because this is our wiring, and this is important to take some of the shame off right now, that we as human beings still have a lot of survival instincts in us, that
Yeah.
old brain that's kind of going, you better fit in and you better stay safe. So don't look over there, don't go into the past, otherwise you might be a mess, and
Yeah.
then we become a mess. So we need
Yeah.
to look at this
That's really
consciously
powerful.
with support, with good eldership, so that we can be here fully ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
I
go
want to
ahead.
punctuate. I want to punctuate what she's saying because if you're listening, you might be still trying to figure out what this has got to do with me finding a man, or what this has got to do with me improving my marriage, or making money, or everything,
Yeah.
everything. Because while we can fool those around us, you're not fooling you. You're not fooling you. You're not fooling your subconscious. And we will always devolve to our level of personal or spiritual growth. We will always. We'll have great wins and we'll have great lows. We will always devolve. And so this conversation is an invitation. I don't know who you are or what's happened in your life, but you know that there are things underneath. You know that there are things unresolved. You know that there are things you can't explain, and you might even be able to articulate it all. That's completely fine. But as she said, it spills out, it seeps out, and relationships are our greatest teacher. I don't know if it was in your book or another one, but I read somewhere that you don't marry, like you marry someone. I'm going to jack up the phrase, but you're in relationship with people who amplify your wounds. Like you get
Yeah, I
exposed.
don't know if it was another place, but I definitely say that. I say you marry your mother, you marry your father, because at the end of the day, there's a part of us that is unhealed. There's a wound. And
Yeah.
the universe is just so smart. It's like, okay, if you have low self-esteem, you're going to be attracted potentially to someone who has a lot of self-esteem, which was me. I married a very highly confident, highly arrogant man, but I was drawn to him because I had such low self-esteem. And when I started to do the work, then I saw he was in shadow as well. And so whatever's unhealed inside of us, it's our soul, in my opinion, to want to feel full and whole, and love the whole package.
Yeah.
And we'll go there in a moment, so that we don't attract someone that is like the old pattern, so we can
Yeah.
see the old patterns. So whether it's in the love relationship or the business relationship, whatever it is about relationship to ourselves, because if it's unhealed, if it's in the unconscious realm, we're going to keep recreating
Yeah.
over and over the unhealed dynamics. And we're going to then go, what's wrong with me? Why can't I have a successful business? Why can't I lose the weight? Because there's shadow, because there's the wiring, because it hasn't been unpacked, and you're stuck because there's blind spots. So yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
So
out.
so let's talk about the whole package
Okay,
and how
yeah,
that even came about, because I think it's a really cool story.
it is a great story, and it was a great story. So there was this place that I went, frequented, dance. It was a great dance place. And there was this man for many months that, we would make eye contact, and, there was the flirt, and of course in my mind is like, is he ever going to ask me to dance? And he finally did. And, we were, having a good time. And then we were doing the sexy dance, and he was behind me, and it's like, his hands were on my hips, and,
Oh, you was backing it up.
I was backing it up, and I was like, "Ooh, this is fun. This is fun. The sexy dance." But then it turned in a way that like horrified me, because then his hands from my hips, his hands went on my belly.
Mm-hmm.
And after, all the shame about my body, and this was before I did a lot of my work,
Yeah.
his hands went on my belly. And my first thought was, oh my God, he's going to find out that I'm fat. He's going to think I'm ugly. And where did that come from? Inside of me, I was thinking, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm unworthy. So I took his hands and put them back on my hips. And we danced a little bit more. And then he put his hands back on my belly. I was like, and so he put his hands back on my hips. And then he whispered to me, he's like, why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep removing my hands from your belly? And I made a joke of it, because that's what I did back then. And I said, oh, well, my belly is not my favorite part of my body. I'm a little uncomfortable with it. So I'll just put you back on my hips. And he put his hands back on my belly, and he said, I love the whole package. I got goosebumps literally just now. It really stopped me, because I was like, I am so focused on this one part of myself, thinking I'm broken, I'm ugly, who will love me? And here's this virtual stranger seeing me as this whole beautiful, amazing woman. And in that moment, I realized inside of me was this part that thought I was unlovable. I wasn't attractive because of this, you know?
Yeah.
And so the healing began. That was another piece of it. So loving the whole package, to me, is the perfect name of the book. It's behind me. And it's about loving all of who you are. We're not our bellies. We're not our imperfections. Our imperfections are part of our beautiful tapestry. And that's why I wrote the book. I mean, it was after the documentary where I got naked, body painted, and shared with the world about body image and body shame. And I was like, let me share in this book how you could actually integrate all these parts and love all of who you are, shadow and light, so that we can really live a life out loud, whether it's in business or love. And usually they're connected.
Yes, they are. I love the story. When I read it, I was like, why? And this is why this is so critical for, if you're listening, when women come into any of our perfect work programs, the academy or wherever else, one of the first our first goal is really to connect the dots of their life. Because when you connect the dots of your life, then you can begin to figure out where do you actually belong in the marketplace. Not just where do your degree, not just what you've been doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years, like really where do you belong in the marketplace and where you can get paid. And inevitably, the biggest challenge for women is recognizing the value of all that they bring to the table. Everything that you bring to like the marketplace wants all of you. It wants your idiosyncrasies. It wants the quirky way you think about the world. It wants your pain. It wants the things you've triumphed, like all of that. Your perfect customer wants all that you are. My perfect customer wants the story of you should have found a better line of work. Like my perfect customer needs that story. My perfect customer is in the fast lane going in the wrong direction. That's who I like. Every piece of you, your perfect customer, be it hiring manager or a client customer who's going to, pay revenue for your service, they want the whole package of who you are.
Yeah.
And the unpresentable parts, the parts that are not so great, the places of vulnerability, like when you are in the right place, it feels like a perfect pair of jeans, right? It just feels right. And so my hope for you is that, this conversation becomes an invitation for you to begin to like all of those pieces of who you are. Like there's I am not the neatest person in the world. I like neat spaces, but I am not neat. I am like a tornado. So then I always have to go back and pick up everything because in my creativity, I create in chaos. So
I get it.
I married someone who's like damn near OCD. His last
Wow.
nerve because the whirlwind, the tornado has come.
Mm.
But guess what? That is the whole package.
Yeah.
And there was a time where I was like, okay, and again, I love neat spaces. I like its serenity. I like that. I just might not be the one to foster that. Because somebody else
Oh my
clean this
God,
up,
I love
please.
it.
But the point is, I have grown in so many ways to appreciate everything that I'm about and laugh at all of the stuff that's unpresentable because the value that I bring to the marketplace is far greater than the imperfections, far greater than the imperfections. And so when you get to the point where you can like who you are, then yes, there's places where you change and you grow. Like it's always about growth and evolution. Don't get me wrong. But there's so much more value that you bring when you're happy with you. When you're happy with you, the world resonates, clients resonate, teams resonate, opportunities
100%.
resonate when
Mm-hmm.
you're happy with you and when you accept you and
Yeah.
when you accept the whole package of you. I really, really love that story.
Yeah. Yeah. When you could be
Mm-hmm.
yourself, your unique, beautiful, authentic self, and love it. You
Mm-hmm.
shine. And there's, no one else has the job of being Junie Moon. I'm the only one. I got the job. And for
Yep.
me to try to be anything other than Junie Moon, it's like that's such a disservice to the opportunity to bring my gifts forward.
Yeah.
Yes, beautifully said. So beautifully
Yeah.
said.
One point that you make in your book that I really want to hit in on here is this idea that the body never lies. And I'm a
Mm,
firm believer of that as well. You had an incident where you either had some kind of chronic pain or something was going on, and there was a much deeper message around the pain that I
yeah.
think would really be valuable for people to hear.
I got to reread my book. It's been a while,
Yeah, it's even good.
but I do know what you're talking about. What'd you say?
I said, sometimes you hear stuff that someone says, and it was like, who said that? That's
It's like,
growth.
hey. Yeah, I had this hip pain many years ago, and it wouldn't go away. It was months, 24/7. And, I actually am a licensed acupuncturist, massage therapist, herbalist. So I know a lot about healing. And I was hitting it with the kitchen sink. I was doing everything I could. And then I started looking at the unconscious mind. And I realized the hip pain, it wasn't going to be solved with some herbs or acupuncture. I needed to do some cleaning up between my ears and my heart because
Mm-hmm.
what I realized was I had some deep grief and some huge anger that was unresolved. The anger certainly was related to my husband at the time, and I was holding a lot around that, and more anger toward myself for not being able to figure this out sooner, because I really was pulling myself up a lot. However, what I realized was so much was about my son. The cliff notes. And I will say that when my head hits the pillow at the end of the night, I know I was a great mom. And yeah, I was a great mom. And I'm thrilled with what I brought to that beautiful child of mine. And with that said, my beautiful child had some huge mental challenges. And when he left at a young age of 16, everybody take a breath that's listening and watching, because this is sometimes it hits people deep in their hearts, especially if this is close to the bone for you. Yeah. He left and I never saw him again. And there was, I don't really remember the book, but I can only assume that this was part of it. I had so much grief around losing my son. It's okay. You know, my ex-husband and I are still close, and he tells me my son is okay. But so FYI, my son is okay. But there are some stories that he has. And the long story short is I had physical pain because I hadn't done the inner work around it. And I still was beating myself up, and I was still feeling like a bad mom, and shoulda, coulda, woulda, and the judgment and the pain. And so I realized that my body was processing that, and it was waking me up. That there was something else going on, and that's what happens with pain. I mean, I've had clients come to me. I had this one client come to me, with shoulder pain. She's like, I can't get rid of this shoulder pain. And we did this whole process around her pain. And by the end of the session, her pain was friggin' gone, because it wasn't about her shoulder. It was about something else. And once the pain had a voice, once my hip pain had a voice, and I did my raging and I did my crying, and I was able to unpack it and resolve it to a large extent and heal it, I was able to get to the other side of it. I shined a light with help, with someone who was facilitating me to feel what I didn't want to feel, because frankly, that was friggin' painful stuff. And, I'm here today, 11 years after he left, to be able to say I have an amazing life. It still hurts, but I'm not suffering. It's painful, and there are moments, but I claim my life, and I pray and see him having a great life, and hope that someday he gets the healing. So I still work it. There are moments that are just heartbreaking. Like I mentioned to you, my dog died this week, and it brings up grief, it brings up loss. And guess what I did this week? I cried my friggin' ass off, and I allowed myself to move through these emotions. Because if I don't, I know my body will say, oh, you didn't process this? Well, then I'm going to have your back go out so that you can feel like shit for days, so that you can be cared for. No, I don't sign up for that anymore. All of our emotions are valid. Our grief, our anger, our fear, and our joy. And may we honor each and every one, because that also is our birthright. So our bodies are amazing messengers of what needs to be healed. And we need to listen. And that's why we get sick, in my opinion.
Yes. In my humble opinion.
In my humble opinion. After my training and my experience, I mean, it's just so obvious to me. And you know what? It's not even just me. Neuroscience shows that. Science shows that these neural pathways, these beliefs, the unconscious mind, it is creating a shit show inside of our body. And that's why we have all these debilitating diseases. And that's why we have these horrible behaviors. So whether it's our body screaming, and I definitely had my body screaming in so many ways, or it's how we're showing up in our life, we must listen and look and heal.
Yep. It is. It's not just your humble opinion. And I brought the point, to the forefront for a reason. As you're listening in, there might be something going on with you. And I'm not suggesting go to the doctor, y'all.
Yes, this is just advice. Do not look. This is not medical advice.
But what I am saying is that the body leaves clues. It really does. It will whisper and it will scream.
Oh yeah.
And there have been years where I have had chronic situations. I mean going after specialists after from the conventional to the quackery. Like I mean all the things.
Me too. Yeah.
Only to realize that it was rooted in something deeper. I
Yeah.
mean, levity story way back when I was in my corporate career and I was at that place where I was bored, burned out, unfulfilled, didn't really know what to do, and it was manifesting itself in all kinds of crazy ways. And it would hit me really in digestion. I had digestion issues for years, years. Nobody could figure out why. Every elimination diet under the sun, like nothing mattered. And I remember I ended up going on vacation and I took a girlfriend with me and went to Puerto Rico. And we spent a few days in Puerto Rico or whatever. Puerto Rico, I'm pooping just fine. I was like, I'm good. Get back home, same situation. I'm like, was it something in the water? Was it something in the margarita? I'm like, there's something that over here, how can I have such a remarkable difference in how I felt and all of that? And it wasn't about Puerto Rico. It wasn't about being on vacation. It wasn't about the water. It was about being in a place where my whole mindset, my whole spirit had shifted. But it was such a, I was like, I'm doing just fine. Like,
Love
that's a
it.
lot of information. But I really wanted to kind of give you some humor around it because sometimes the things that we go through are actually really scary when we start dealing with nervous system issues and burnout and all of these things where there's no explanation, all the test results are fine, nobody can figure it out, can't lose the weight, can't gain the weight, hair's falling out, like all of these things that we have learned as high achieving women to just function through.
Yeah.
Just function through, put a clip in that head and keep it moving, like you just function through. In reality, your body's saying, wake up, wake up, there's something going on, there's something going, you gotta pay attention, you gotta feel this.
Yeah.
And it's an invitation to feel it, which is what I took from Junie's story. You gotta be willing to feel it. It is such a dishonor to who you are as a woman. It's a dishonor to your body. It's a dishonor to all your birthright. It's a dishonor to everything that you deserve to not feel whatever's showing up, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Like, to not feel the heights of joy in your life is a dishonor to your life. To not feel that, you know what, whatever so and so's doing, this is not right. Doesn't mean that you can change somebody. Doesn't mean that, but you can honor yourself by figuring out, what boundaries am I going to put up around this? How am I going to advocate for me? And so I don't know everyone's situation. I don't know the extent of what traumas people have had, but everybody's had them. You've had them. And if you're going to go into a relationship as a single person, whole, and being able to select well, you're being invited to like yourself. And you're being invited to evaluate the pieces of yourself that you don't like and figure out why. Because if you don't figure out why now, you're going to bring it into a relationship and it's going to be a big old flaming bag of doo-doo. In your marriage, if you don't figure it out, that teacher's gonna keep coming back to teach you the same lesson, and you're gonna think it's the spouse. You're gonna think it's not. It's the thing in you that gets to heal. It's you being able to look at you and saying, I like that about you. You're enough. You're worthy. You're not your revenue. You're not your salary. You're good.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are thinking about starting businesses, that business will humble the hell out of you. Like, it will humble you. You got this brilliant gift you're bringing to the marketplace. The gift and the building and the business of the gift, two very different experiences.
Big personal growth work when you're in business, man. Woo!
You don't heal that
on a regular basis.
You don't heal that. You don't figure out how to like the woman that's doing it while it's messy.
Yeah.
You don't like her. It's going to be a rough road to hoe. Like, really. And so this conversation is here to really sound the alarm, but really give a loving invitation that all the things that we think we're afraid to see about ourselves really are such wonderful gems of blessing if we allow them to be. And that serves as the foundation to be able to create love that just enchants you, to navigate through love that challenges you, and then to show up in the marketplace with such a brilliant shine that the marketplace can't help but be drawn to you in money, in opportunity, in position, in promotion, and all of those things that we talk about. And so I'm so glad to have you in this conversation. And I'm so glad that you've allowed your life to be such a lesson for all of us, because there's a lot of good gems in there. A lot of good gems.
Wow, everything you just shared was so, so powerful and just wow, amazing and such truth, such truth. And one of the things about, deserving and knowing our truth and that we're good enough, I always say you can own till the cows come home. You can own, you can put up the vision boards. All of those are great tools for the conscious mind. I'm good enough. I can do it. But if in the background, there's all that, shadow running of you better be careful, you're not good enough, and you don't hear it, that's why we struggle. So we must shine a light on that and be able to bring our gifts out. Oh, I just love everything you're saying. So beautiful.
This is so good. So good. So as always, we have a free gift for everybody that's listening in. And so Junie's actually come up with something real juicy too. So I'm going to let her explain that, and then we'll talk about how you're able to access that, and then we'll wrap it up. And let's be on the way. So what you got?
Well, fresh off the press, because we just finished it. I am so excited. This has been like a year in the making, and it's done. It's a quiz to find your love avatar. And we have, you could be the courageous queen, the glorious goddess, or the empowered empress. And you'll find out your superpower, and you'll find out where you need to maybe do some tweaking, maybe some of the challenges. It's a really like a 2-minute quiz. It's fun, and it'll help you get clear about where you might have some edgy stuff, and I need to work on this or tweak that, or wow, I really got this going on for me. So it's a quick quiz. And then you'll have a full report in your inbox to really discover where you are when it comes to relationship and how relationship ready you are. And like I said, you'll figure out which avatar you are and where you might need some support. So you can actually get it at my website, which is Midlife Love Out Loud /quiz. Midlife Love Out Loud /quiz. And it's fun. Yeah. So excited.
Quizzes are always fun. Quizzes are always fun. And so you're going to see a link at the bottom of our video here on this page. So simply click the link. It will take you exactly where you need to go. Enter your name, enter your email address. And what's great about it is that, you'll get the quiz, and the quiz is awesome, but you also get included in, you get invited into Junie's ecosystem. And so you get to learn from her. You'll get emails from her. You'll get, emails about podcast episodes that she's doing, and just being able to stay connected. When someone resonates with you, if their content is really good, follow them, learn from them, invest in them, buy from them, grow your life, in that way. And so definitely take full advantage of that. And anything else? I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So with that, it's been such a privilege, guys, to spend this time with you. I hope that you are invited to become your own soulmate, and to love the woman that you are, to like the chick that you are becoming, to have fun with her, and to use her as the foundation to get everything else that you want. Everything else that you want comes from you, like in the chick that you have become. And so my hope is that this has been a really enriching and blessing thus conversation for you. And with that, on behalf of Junie and myself, we want to say bye and take care, and we'll see you next time. Alrighty, bye-bye.